You're listening to a Roddenberry Podcast.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. And now for a brand new show we hope you'll like. Gene-ology, a Roddenberry Podcast.
Episode 88, The Savages. Welcome to Mission Log Gene-ology. I'm Earl Green.
And I'm Ashley Thomas.
Each week on Gene-ology, we look at the art and artistry of Gene Roddenberry's earliest works to see if any of them are made in the image of the morals, meanings, and messages found in his most famous later work, Star Trek. But sometimes we don't have the best of both worlds. We have the best of both compromises.
I'm not sure whether that was a Star Trek, a Have Gun Will Travel, or Hannah Montana joke. But I suppose we'll just have to dig into this week's show and find out, won't we? But before we get to trivia on this week's show, let me take a brief moment to encourage you to join our Patreon, or follow us on YouTube, or leave us a review wherever you're listening to us. Patreon is your gateway to all things Mission Log, including exclusive access to the unedited version of our show, aka the VAM, and our private Discord channel where you can interact with us, your hosts, Earl and me, as well as the other Roddenberry podcast hosts and crew, during our scheduled live chats, along with occasional screenings. You can access all of this for just a mere $1 a month, so head on over to patreon.com/missionlog to see what tier works for you and join the conversation. By the way, reviews help our shows more than you could possibly know. Even if you can't come up with the words for a written review, one of those 5-star ratings really does go a long way to tell the algorithm that you like us, you love us, you want some more of us. Other people might like, love, and want more of us too. We are counting on our loyal genealogists to help us spread the word. And now, this week's trivia. Earl, tell us what you got for us today, bro.
Well, I tried to chip away at the marble and leave just the relevant trivia for this episode. We'll see if I managed. Basically, with the Savages, it all comes down to this. This is the last episode of Have Gun Will Travel, written by Gene Roddenberry, and there are only 5 episodes that come after it. Kind of makes you wonder if any thought was given to having Gene send the show off. Put a pin in that notion. I might come back to it later. This is not only Gene's final Have Gun episode, but chronologically speaking, very nearly his final word on the Western. He would receive a story credit only on an episode of The Virginian that aired about a month after this, and that would almost be it, except that a rewrite of that Virginian episode for a later Western, a 1971 episode of Alias Smith and Jones, would net him a further credit, one where Gene really didn't have to do anything but sign off and give permission for it. Other than those credits, Gene's done with the Western, a genre where he had done most of his work for the past 6 years. Judy Meredith as Gina was on her second Have Gun guest starring role this season alone, and her third overall. She was a former ice skater who turned to acting after recovering from both a broken neck and a broken knee. She also happened to be the wife of this episode's director, Gary Nelson. Just a few years earlier, she had a regular role on Hotel de Paris as Monique Devereaux, the younger of the two sisters who owned the hotel, and therefore the younger sister of Jeanette Nolan's character. This means she was in nearly every episode. But among the ones that she was not in was the one episode of Hotel de Paris that Gene wrote, which we covered back in podcast number 56. It may be of some interest when considering the age of the character she was playing here to note that Judy was 26 when this episode was filmed. Patrick Knowles, playing August Werner, was a British-born actor with quite a pedigree on both big screen and small. In the movies, he had prominent roles in The Wolfman, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and Errol Flynn's Adventures of Robin Hood, where he played Will Scarlet. This is also the third and final Have Gun appearance for Patrick. As the elusive Spencer, James Griffith was in his element. His appearance lent itself to character roles, often villains, and, guess what, once again, his third and final Have Gun Will Travel appearance. Like Judy, he had already appeared in the early part of Season 6, and that's the entire guest cast, just 3 people, no background extras whatsoever. None of the 3 had been in a production of a Gene script before, and none of them would do so again. Gene's last hurrah with Paladin is once again directed by Gary Nelson, whose previous outing on Have Gun was also Gene's previous one, doing an excellent job with Cage at McNabb exactly 1 month earlier. This isn't quite a wrap for Gary, however, as he will be behind the camera for one more episode of Have Gun, just 3 weeks after this one, ironically written by Fred Freiberger. But for genealogy purposes, this episode, aired on March 16th, 1963, is a wrap for the adventures of Paladin. The days of the Western were drawing to a close in general, but for Have Gun Will Travel in particular. The show had spent its first 4 seasons as the number 3 show on American television in the ratings, but it hadn't seen the top 20 since the end of season 4. It's just possible that where the American television public was concerned, they had seen Paladin do it all. A new executive producer, Robert Sparks, had taken over at the beginning of season 6 to try to reinvigorate the show. It may or may not be a coincidence that after the final episode of season 6 aired on April 20th, 1963, Have Gun went into one last schedule of summer reruns, and all of the repeated episodes were from season 5.
Act 1. Paladin rides into the scene and meets a young woman. She is very pretty, but oddly childlike, telling Paladin that she is making a dress for her dolly. She starts to lead Paladin into her tent to show him when they are interrupted by Werner August. He points a rifle at Paladin and regrets that the wild reputation of this country does not permit him to show hospitality. Paladin offers his business card in response. Cue the card music. August says they waited for Paladin for an extra day in Santa Barbara, but he didn't show. Paladin had to come track them down. August introduces his daughter, Gina. Gina, though grown, seems to be in a state of perpetual childhood. Paladin says that he was familiar with August already, having visited one of his art collections several years ago. He also comments that Gina looks familiar, but he can't really place why. August says that he must be mistaken. August is on the hunt for the vanished sculptor, Elliot Spencer, and Paladin was the last person to see him. Spencer seems to have fallen off the face of the earth for the past 20 years, but Paladin saw him 3 years ago. August shows the sculptures that he has in his possession, the Savages, and Paladin confirms that yes, indeed, that is Spencer's work. But Spencer has purposefully isolated himself from the rest of the world. Paladin reluctantly agrees to take Vern and Gina to meet him, but he also warns that if he does, and Spencer isn't happy to see him, well, August says that he will have just wasted his time. The next morning, Paladin finds Gina sculpting in the sand. Paladin remarks on her skill. Gina says that she remembers a man who was kind to her and taught her art a long time ago. He'd swing her in his arms and say that she was his beautiful little one. He was her dearest friend aside from her mother, who is now passed. She then asked if Paladin would swing her in his arms like that man did. He said no, because he might like that, and it might not be what she expected at all. Gina says that it's better to stay a child, because then people can love you, and there is no hate. Then she rests her head against Paladin's hand. Werner August approaches and warns Paladin that their agreement did not include talking with his daughter. We're breaking camp immediately. Paladin leaves, and Gina continues singing her song in French. Act 2. Off they travel. Paladin is in the lead on his horse, with Gina and August riding behind on the wagon. Gina is singing her French song again to her dolly and dancing the doll around. One verse, another verse, key change. Oh, shut up, will you? Growls Vern angrily. Paladin, who has been enjoying the tune, frowns at the angry tone. Later, they arrive at Spencer's encampment. Spencer starts to send them away, telling them that this is a private encampment, but then he recognizes Paladin, welcoming his old friend. Oh, and it's you, August. There's an uneasy familiarity here. Spencer then turns to Gina, calling her Colette, her mother's name, but Paladin corrects him. So much like her. Spencer trails off. August says, "Surely you remember the one you found so charming as a child?" He then informs him that Colette is dead. To him, for many years. To others, only 3. Spencer is taken aback by this news and looks to Gina. August takes the doll from Gina's hands and brandishes it at Spencer, saying, "Despite her years, she remains a child, like her father." Vern speaks that last word with venom and says that there are ways for gentlemen to settle such things. But before he can speak further, Spencer looks grim and says that he's pleased to welcome an old acquaintance and invites Gina to go for a walk with him. August looks about to blow his stack when Paladin suggests that he go and tend the wagon. Later, Paladin and Spencer speak privately, where Paladin confides that he suspected August was lying. However, he'd have just kept looking for him until he found him anyway. Paladin asks why he chose this particular place to make camp. Was it the natural architecture? He then remarks as to why he's recognized Gina. She was one of Spencer's pieces, the Tuscan water nymph, Gina's mother. August approaches with a box, looking as surly as ever. He heard them as they stared at that statue, remarking on its beauty. The wife of Werner August, isn't it? And he, such a blind, stupid fool. "They are the ones who are blind, August," says Spencer. "Loveliness like hers only comes from within. Her very faithfulness is what gave her beauty." August is fuming now and asks if Spencer wishes to inspect the pistols. Spencer merely replies that he isn't afraid of death, but he refuses to take life. August counters that it was Colette's wish, and asks Gina to confirm that it was indeed her mother who gave him the dueling pistols and marked one with a symbol known only to Spencer. Spencer sees the water lily engraved on the stock. The water lily was a private joke between the two of them, he says. They wished they could be like water lilies, rooted in the bottom of the water, die in the winter, and be reborn anew every spring. "Without the encumbrance of a husband, of course," August snarls. Spencer had hoped that she might feel that way, but she never said. August draws the other pistol and says that he thinks it's only fitting that the seed of the water lily witness their final use. Spencer comments on the absurdity of this. Gina is August's child, not his. A duel would only result in harming Gina. But August insists. Colette's message is clear to him, right there on the pistol. Spencer starts to give an audible will on behalf of Gina when Paladin interrupts. "Gina's not a piece of merchandise for bargaining." And Spencer agrees. She's the only human thing in this whole affair. He wants her away from August, away from his hate. But August's anger is brimming over. "Even you ought to be able to tell that her head is too empty for hate or anything else." Paladin speaks measuredly. "If there's a person here without understanding, it's you, August." August tells Paladin to butt out, and Spencer agrees. This isn't his concern. However, Paladin disagrees with both of them. He takes the pistols from each of them and asks them to agree not to go through with this. He appeals to August's intelligence and education. Consider that Spencer might be telling the truth. August meets this appeal with stony silence. Paladin then tries to appeal to his better nature, asking him to have charity enough to forgive him for what he believes happened. August refuses. Paladin then tries to appeal to Spencer, remarking that the ugliness of violence in the world is what drove him out into the wilderness for solitude in the first place. Spencer turns to look at Gina. Somewhere a poet must have said, "To truly love beauty is to be willing to die for it, if necessary." He then expresses his pity for August, to have had a beautiful woman and a lovely child, and to have never known the wonder of either. Paladin is over the entire situation. Two gentlemen mired in the muck of their own self-pity that they can't see the obvious. What do you think the death of either of one of you will mean to this girl? August remarks cruelly, "Where there is no mind, there can be no effect." Gina frowns at her father's statements, but the men won't be dissuaded. Paladin hands them over to their absurdity. But since he bears a certain professional interest in the matter and August hired him, he has no choice. He'll take August's position in the duel. Act 3. Paladin offers the gun to Spencer. It's primed, loaded, and cocked. All he's got to do is pull the trigger. He and Paladin stand back to back and will fire on 5. They begin their paces, but Gina intervenes, running to Paladin. She doesn't want him to shoot. He's her friend. Paladin agrees. He doesn't want to shoot either. He tells August that he suspects the pistols have been tampered with. Any person pulling the trigger would be taking his own life. Spencer is surprised. Paladin suspects that Colette knew that August would eventually find Spencer and that Spencer would never have pulled the trigger. August refuses to believe this and fires the gun, but he's the one who's gravely mistaken. He's dead. Paladin asks if Gina knew the guns had been tampered with. She says no, then realizes that Spencer was the man who taught her art when she was very little. Paladin asks if Spencer will come back with them to San Francisco, but he declines. He's not ready yet. But they know where he is, and he'll know where they will be. Paladin tells Gina that the first thing he's going to do when he gets her back to San Francisco is put her in clothes befitting her years. Gina asks if she needs to wear shoes, and Paladin firmly says that she does. They chuckle at this statement. Paladin turns to Spencer saying, "This may not be the best of all possible worlds, but if we try, we can make it the best of all possible compromises." Paladin walks to the wagon, but before they leave, Gina offers Spencer her doll. In return, he offers her a bit of clay with a smiley face that he pressed into it. They share a laugh. Gina and Paladin ride off together in the wagon, singing Opera de ma Blonda. Spencer watches as they ride into the distance and begins humming the song himself. The end.
Well done, Ashley. That was, this story is a savagely difficult one to try to summarize.
I watched this episode 2 or 3 times, and I messaged you. I was like, okay, I've watched the episode. I've taken a look at our Have Gun Will Travel companion book. I still don't know that I could tell you what happened in this episode because there's a lot that is spoken once in very tiny details, not referred to again. So in a world where folks second screen a lot, including yours truly, this is one where you leave the phone on Dungeons & Dragons, put it out of your reach, take notes. Because when I finally got to sit down and really try to wrangle this recap in earnest, I had the computer in front of me and was trying to take down. I was like, okay, I missed that little detail. I missed that part before. Oh, I was looking at my phone, so I missed this nonverbal thing that happened on screen. Like, okay, this was a challenging episode, so I'm really excited to get to talk with you about it today.
Challenging, that's a good way to put it. However, I am glad that we latched on to one thing, and that is that I kept on expecting Ernest to show up in earnest.
Burn.
You're never going to find that Spencer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Referring, of course, to the late, great Jim Varney.
Jim Varney.
Anytime you have someone who's... And I realize that Werner is probably the German pronunciation of W-E-R-N-E-R.
Mm-hmm.
That Werner.
Yeah.
As in, like, Dr. Werner von Braun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the moment you have a name that can be shortened to Vern, Ernest just appears in my head rent-free.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, I have never done any beach camping. Mr. Nerdy Blogger and his best buddy did some beach camping in Michigan in a place where they were not supposed to be beach camping. Yeah. So they considered the ticket they got as payment for the campsite. But apparently it's pretty relaxing to camp on the beach. Slightly more comfortable than sleeping on the hard ground because you can kind of contour the sand to whatever you want it to be. But, some people pay lots of money for sound machines or listen to ocean waves on YouTube. But, yeah.
I would never be able to get to sleep because if anything moved, I would be asking myself, was it a rock or a rock lobster? While we're on the topic of music, I've got to point out the really jaunty music in that opening scene. I don't think I have ever heard the score reference the Ballad of Paladin before, the Johnny Western song for the end credits.
Yeah, I I feel like it probably has, but it definitely like was bum bum ba bum bum ba 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 da ba da, like definitely played with that quite a bit.
Yeah, I've that really stuck out to me. A very, very major key happy rendition of the Ballad of Paladin, which the end credit version is not. The end credit is a bit more somber.
Yeah.
And so it was really a surprising thing to hear. It jumped out at me right away. Of course, I'm also a soundtrack nerd, so.
Hey, you and me both. That's why you're my brother, Earl, among many other reasons. But you know, yeah, the musical cues in this were really interesting because then by the end, the score is playing on this song,
the French song.
Yeah, the French song. So, Earl, did you do any research on the French song Op Première de ma Blonde?
Oh, yes. We have heard it before in this show.
Have we really? Tell me more.
Because they were singing it in Les Girls. Because those girls were also French. I think this song in question is, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, I know one French song, or I know one song in French, and this is it.
Oh, the one song I know in French is Faire Jacques, is a climbing song, according to Picard.
Right.
But, so, assuming ye olde trivia on IMDb page for this episode, the song Opera de ma Blonde, which I really hope I said correctly, I minored in Spanish, loosely translated from French as Next to My Sweetheart, was a 1600s lament by a French soldier while imprisoned by his Dutch captors during the French-Dutch War, which raged at the time. The French Catholics were fighting a regional war with their Dutch Protestant foes over the fate of the country, which would become Belgian. Half Walloons, half Flemish, and all these years later still divided by their religious differences. The song is starkly divided by the separated French wife's declarations of doing anything she had to do to free her husband, including trading the King of France as ransom for her loved one's return, while he, completely isolated from the rest of the world, sings simply that he wishes he were by her side, après de ma blonde, every evening, and hoping she slept well at night. Blonde here is an idiomatic usage for girlfriend or sweetheart, not literally a blonde-haired woman. But what do we have here? We have an artist who has chosen to isolate himself from the rest of the world, who wishes he could be with the woman he loves, the girl who may or may not be his daughter. It sounds like he says, nope, not mine, didn't do that. But yet she looks to him as a father figure. Like, I wish I could be with the one I love, who just happens to be a blonde-haired woman. And if she's the image of her mother, well, guess what?
Mom was probably blonde too, so
yeah.
possibly a much more deliberate choice of song than, oh, this is the one song I know in French.
I thought thematically, again, assuming the trivia page is correct, yeah, it seems very thematic for what we're dealing with here. And I was curious, like, does anyone know what this means? Because the captions that we have on Have Gun Will Travel just say French song. They don't even name the song. And I don't remember catching in the end credits if it was even listed, but it's a public domain song, so why bother?
I love that about closed captioning, though. I like speaks in Spanish. It's like, really?
Stop it. Yeah, no, that irks me. Like, at least if it's going to be in Spanish, fine. Put whatever it says in Spanish. You don't have to translate it, but at least, like, give it that much. People can go look it up if they want to.
Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Yeah, let's hear.
If August has been looking for Spencer for years and years and years, and all he's found is this piece of sculpture, has he run into the statue of limitations?
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Speaking of crimes, however, I've got to take Paladin to task because, okay, a few episodes, I forget which one it was. He gave a barmaid an unsolicited fondle. Which I think I flagged that too. Was like, dude, why the heck are you invading her space like that?
Yeah.
And now he does this with Gina. She's just sitting there enjoying her needlepoint or her cross stitch or whatever she's doing to occupy herself. She doesn't need you touching her, dude.
Yeah.
Leave the lady alone.
Yeah. I got real weird vibes from that. And then like the later thing he says to her, she asks if he would pick her up and swing her in his arms like that. He's like, I'm not going to do that because I might like it and it might not be what you expected it to be. And I'm like, bro, that's really scummy. We are never given any more information about why Gina seems, though grown, seems to be a perpetual child. I'm going to assume it involves suffering some sort of trauma.
I may have something in discussion about this.
Okay. So, but I'm just like, I don't like it. It makes me really uncomfortable. No, thank you. I mean, I'm sure that would have read differently back then, but I don't like what any of that means.
Yeah.
Or how it can be construed. That made me really skeeved out.
That line jumped out at me, too, and I think the only reason I do not have it in my observation notes means it's in discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So, everyone, brace yourselves. Grease the wheels on the soapbox.
Mm-hmm. Let me go get the WD-40, BRB. Oh.
Yeah. Going out of Act 1 to commercial break, that is the weirdest act out I have ever seen on this show. Mm-hmm. It is not some moment of great suspense. It's just like, oh, hey, we need to run that spot for Bill Cream here.
Yeah. It's very odd.
Okay, advice for Werner August.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if your kid singing the same thing over and over again is driving you a bit batty, take this opportunity to teach them to improvise harmonies. Don't beat them, join them.
Yeah. That would have been nice. That would have been really nice for that. One thing I observed when I was visiting my buddy out in Nebraska, she and her husband have a 5-year-old daughter who I adore and introduces me to everyone as Auntie Ashley, which delights me to no end. I made the mistake of teaching her the interrupting cow joke while I was there. Knock, knock, who's there? Interrupting cow. Moo! Because
this is very on brand for this podcast.
I know, right? I teach little kids how to moo. Lots of mooing. Anyway, while there, we were riding in the car. We were actually on the way to take me to the airport so I could fly back home. And the interrupting cow joke, when we drove past some cows, so I told her, Molly, this is what we have to do. We have to moo. And so we mooed at the cows. And then she was telling her own rendition of the interrupting cow joke. And it kind of devolved into interrupting insert animal here and then her screaming. I'm just laughing so hard. And my friends are laughing. Their friends are in the front laughing. I'm sitting in the back seat, like laughing with this kid. And I'm just thinking, if this had been my parents, I would have been told to shut up, like real quick. But instead they are delighting in her delight over this very silly little thing that I taught her. And so I'm just like, one, bravo, you guys are wonderful parents. Please keep delighting in whatever your kid thinks is wonderful as long as it is not immoral or illegal. And two, I could totally see my folks turning around and say, like, can you put a sock in it? Stop it. Yeah. Sing harmonies. Your kid is happy and enjoying life. Maybe you should too.
Yeah, don't steal their joy. Maybe borrow some of it.
Yeah, seriously. It can be found. It is not in as short a supply as the world makes it seem. I thought it was interesting that you pointed out in trivia that the actor who played Spencer often played villains. And I'm like, he just has to me, and maybe it's because I like beards and I'm married to a skinny fellow with a nice beard, but like, he just seemed to have like a really nice, like friendly face. Like I was kind of surprised that he played a lot of villains.
I have a feeling that was probably the fate of anyone who was not blessed with leading man good looks. It's like, oh, you were going to be a character actor at best or a frequent heavy at worst.
Yeah.
And so if you're slightly swarthy or bearded, oh yeah, you're definitely
yeah. I mean,
heavy.
This was the day of the clean-shaven and/or mustachioed gentleman. So,
well, yeah, and I think we arrived at a working theory for that not too long ago. Among your most frequent advertisers were people selling razors and blades.
Yeah,
it does not benefit those sponsors to have a bunch of people with nicely coiffed beards on camera. Yeah, and I'm like, this dude's living out in the wilderness by himself, and he's got a really good beard going. I was like, you did a good job, man. Well done. Well manicured beard. Looked really good. I liked it. But again, that's just me. But I like beards. You can thank the Lord of the Rings for that. Yeah, but I feel like you're probably right in that this was probably a very welcome bit of casting against type. Oh, for sure. I mean, it's fun to see people who are really good at a particular thing excel at doing that particular thing, but it's also really fun to see them in an offbeat kind of role. I mean, we talk a lot about Doug Jones and what a brilliant actor he is, and he's such a kind and sweet man, and he's really dapper and good looking, and he always is playing a monster. But even when he was Mr. Saru, like, he at least got to play what I feel, having now met the man, not just in interviews but in person, like, that is his personality. Mr. Saru is just Doug Jones. This gentleman, James Griffith, he gave a lot of a big haunted vibe here, and he did that very effectively. Yeah, that poor tortured artist sort of thing. Yeah, definitely got that vibe from him. Mm-hmm. Definitely leaning into that stereotype, perhaps, but he played it very well. Yeah, I agree. August said that Gina might have known the guns had been tampered with. When did he say that? Is there a deleted scene? That must have got left on the editing room floor, because that definitely was not said previously in the episode. Okay, so that's not just me. Yeah, no. He said that he had Gina polish the guns herself, which I'm not a super big gun fan, so I'm not giving guns to someone who is in a state of childlike wonder to polish them. I mean, it was, again, different times, but that doesn't seem advisable to me. Yeah, my only other big note on Gina is, she really doesn't have to wear shoes. Mm-hmm. I don't know why Paladin's telling her that, but... I mean, might get cold, might get worms. Not always ideal, but... There's two valid reasons. I'm just saying that in general, I myself am a big fan of being barefoot around the house. I don't go barefoot too often anymore, but I am always wearing socks in the house, pretty much. But yes, she don't have to wear shoes. She don't want to. Dang it. I found that faintly triggering. Oh, you're going to have to wear shoes. It's like, no, she doesn't. I kind of wish that we had gotten a little more backstory about Gina and why she is the way she is. And I mean, I guess we can kind of fill in the blanks as Spencer met the Augusts because he's an artist and Mr. August was an art dealer. I mean, we can kind of connect the dots that way, but there's a lot kind of left unsaid or said very quickly one time in this episode. So it took me several watches to kind of really take everything in. But it also seems like a lot of stuff is being left to be inferred, or like maybe there was an extra act worth of material that just didn't make it. It's like, I'm not sure if this was supposed to be an hour show, but it seems like it needed to be a 35-minute show. Yeah, this needed to be a special double episode or a two-parter or something, which, of course, two-parters were probably not a thing that existed back then. But I feel like this needed a little more breathing room that, unfortunately, we were not given. Earl, do you have the dueling pistols? And are you ready to fire both of them at this episode? The characters in this, I will give you this. Okay. Gene knows how to richly draw some characters.
Yeah, would agree.
Some of the characters that he draws so richly make me want to punch them.
Yes, they are so richly drawn and with punchable faces. Burn. He was pretty punchable in my book as well. So, tell me more.
All right. I think we've established on this podcast in the past, it may have come up a time or 5 that I have very strong feelings about parenting.
Yes.
So to hear Werner August repeatedly write Gina off as having an empty head, get that girl away from him.
Seriously, that was infuriating.
If his treatment of her is based on his having no tolerance for any disability or anything that he perceives as an imperfection, he is no kind of father, and he does not need to be fulfilling that role.
Yeah. And I have to wonder, because he could see that Spencer was a little bit in love with his wife, who was looking so makey-outy tonight, and he perceived that at minimum, whether anything happened or not, Colette at least cared for Spencer or liked him in a way that she probably didn't like her husband, because he's a mean cranky old man, that there's no way he could have possibly given birth to a daughter with an empty head, quote unquote.
Well, if his treatment of her is based on his having decided that she's not his kid, I am circling back to he is no kind of father.
Yeah, no, agree.
Because this world is filled with father figures who were not biological fathers, but ended up with that role and fulfilled it better than the biological fathers did. Yeah. And huge shout out to those men.
For real.
Werner August is not one of those men. He won't listen to Paladin beg him to walk away from committing a life-changing act of violence. And so Werner's just not really much of a man at all. No. The act of violence is indeed life-changing. I mean, it changes August from a live person to a dead one.
Yeah. Life-changing as in that you have none now. Good job.
Yeah. If Colette rigged the gun because she wanted August dead, that is perhaps the most telling character note at all from a woman who is not even in this story. Yeah. It sounds like she knew exactly the kind of man her husband was and what he would do. I have no reason to not believe Spencer. Spencer said nothing ever happened between them. Yeah, maybe he wanted it to, but he's not the kind of guy who's going to go steal another man's wife. And even if there was clear attraction there, at this point in time, there's not anything that could be done about it, not legally. You could see, for whatever reason, August said his wife has been dead to him for years, but to others only 3. He was angry and bitter towards this woman for years and years, long before she died. And so I don't know if he could have divorced her. I mean, she had no legal say-so in that probably at that point. I don't know what the laws were like then, but I doubt very seriously she had that opportunity or option. But he could have. But, I mean, he was treating her like a piece in his art gallery. Yeah. I get the impression he was no better as a husband than he was as a father. Yeah, none. Not at all. And, if Colette was smart enough to know Spencer's never going to pull the trigger, but this guy will, did she rig one or both guns? Did she put the symbol on one or the other? Yeah, I think she put the symbol on just the water lily on just one. Yeah. So, I have to wonder, did she rig both just to be safe, knowing that Spencer was never going to pull a trigger, but August would, or I don't know. This is one of those things that is left out of the script, or at least out of the show. We don't have the script. I would like to have seen the script to see if there was more there. Yeah. And that leaves us with Gina. I wish I could say she would be better off with either Spencer or Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Except that they are both middle-aged men who seem to be spending a fair amount of time ogling her. Yes, Spencer because she resembles her mother, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I almost wish Gina had been cast younger so that would not have been possible. But then I remind myself I'm being incredibly naive because the male gaze was so pervasive in a television industry dominated by male creatives.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever played Gina, she was always going to be eye candy.
Yeah. She was going to be the hot young thing. So
she reads as non-neurotypical.
Right.
She perhaps has not been given enough of a chance or an education to be high-functioning. Mm-hmm. But most of all, I think there is a giant dollop of unresolved trauma.
Yes.
That is probably related to the death of her mother. Her mind and her whole soul ran and hid a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, she even makes the statements like it's better to remain a child and not know hate because everyone loves you and there's no hate.
Yeah, but even though I wonder how she knows that because the adults around her to this day in her life continue doing weird and terrible things.
Yep.
But I could totally get she does not want any part of growing up and, hey, feel that too.
Can relate.
In a big way.
Yep.
I feel terrible for her. And the thing that disturbs me is can Paladin provide her a better life than Werner August was going to? You know, her father who constantly said her head was empty. Almost certainly, because Paladin has culture. He knows other culture. He already knew Spencer before this story. That's why August hired him.
Yeah.
Paladin knows people who can raise this girl properly and show her the right amount of patience. But I can't shake the feeling that this doesn't necessarily guarantee a positive outcome for her.
Yeah. You know, the first thing we're going to do is find you clothes befitting your years. What does that mean?
Yeah, because once you've said something like, oh, hey, I could swing you in my arms, but that would mean something different for me than it means for you. Once you've said something like that, every statement after that is suspect.
Yeah. No. Not cool. Pretty grossed out by that. I mean, Paladin seems to at least understand that, hey, you know, this might be someone like who he encountered in the Monster of Moon Ridge. And so you have...
Go live with them.
Perfect.
Great, good. We wrote the ending.
Yep. That headcanon accepted. This is where Gina is. She's hanging out on Moon Ridge and getting to occasionally have a go as the spooky witch in that Scooby-Doo episode.
She gets to pet the bear.
The bear! Oh, yeah. Oh, bear. Forgot about the cute bear. Yeah. All right. Yes. Okay. So, headcanon accepted. Feeling better about this already.
Oh, I'm glad we landed on that now. I feel much better.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, Spencer says it there to have the love of a beautiful woman and a wonderful child and have, not the knowledge of either. Like, August is a man so hell-bent on his own pride and anger and hatred and just ugly. He's just ugly.
He needs to hang out with the guy from Episode in Laredo, except, oh yeah, that guy is dead too.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're hanging out together now.
Mm-hmm. But
they're not in the good place. They're in the bad place.
Dear Lord. He says it himself. And you can feel the longing with what Spencer says. Because, yeah, I mean, obviously he loved Colette. But he says that nothing ever happened between them. It's sad because Spencer... I didn't see his looks toward Gina as ogling. Like, I think it was him realizing, oh crap, she's just Colette made over. But oh no, Colette's dead. That's so sad. Like, the woman I cared so much for so long is gone. I mean, because obviously he's there by himself. He's not met up with some other lady love or whatever. And so it sounded like Gina, at least, he treated her as his daughter and did like the emotional heavy lifting that Vern wasn't going to do. So,
yeah, and I feel like there was kind of an implication that Spencer, whatever his unresolved, unrequited feelings are, he pours that into his work.
Yes. Yes.
There's a line from a Ben Folds song that had lyrics written by Nick Hornby, of all people, that comes to mind. The song is called From Above, and there is it's not really a chorus, it's kind of a bridge at the end, and it's repeated in intensity, like it becomes a mantra.
Mm.
And, maybe that's how books get written, maybe that's how songs get sung. Who knows? Maybe we're the unlucky ones.
Hmm.
Talking about where the emotions that people pour into art come from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that song was just kind of playing in the back of my head rent-free, thinking about Spencer.
Yeah.
It's also tragic because what kind of life would Gina had? What kind of life would Colette had? And we don't even get to meet Colette.
Yeah.
What kind of life would they have had with Spencer instead of Vern or August?
Yeah. I mean, it's not often that in these Westerns we meet a man like Spencer who is kind and gentle and more interested in art and creating beauty than he is, being a cowboy or running a ranch or wrangling or whatever. It's one of those bittersweet sort of things.
Earlier we were talking about not having access to the scripts, but only to the finished shows. Any trivia we can dig up about them, which I feel like the extent of that was the song.
Right. Yeah.
Indulge me for a second because I'm going to embark on some pure speculation here.
By all means, go ahead.
Did Gene write a series finale that didn't get used as a series finale?
I could see this as series finale.
So now, let me back up and kind of devil's advocate myself there and point out that Have Gun's final episode, the last new one that went out, ended like any other, and you could have looped around to the beginning of the show and people would probably not even notice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think American television ever had a show end before The Fugitive. Which had a quest element built into it because you had Richard Kimball looking for the one-armed man who killed his wife.
Sure.
And wives just didn't have much life expectancy on American TV back then.
So many women have died at the altar of story for some man's pain. Because men can apparently only be motivated by the death of women they love. It's still a thing. Can we please stop doing that? Can men just, want to do something because it's the right thing to do?
Well, to do that, screenwriters in the modern age would have to stop digging out their dog-eared copy of Save the Cat. Mm-hmm. But I will go on that spiel another time. But so in the case of The Fugitive, you had to resolve the mystery.
Sure.
Because anything less betrays the trust of the audience. What if Have Gun were to have a definitive ending? And what if they asked Gene to write a potential real ending for the show? Because we have spent this entire series getting hints and suggestions of how cultured and educated Paladin is.
Mm-hmm.
With some tweaks, this would have been a great exit ramp that pays off all of those hints. but also returns to something else that has cropped up a number of times, which is how inherently uncivilized Paladin's lifestyle is.
Mm-hmm.
And would looking after Gina be a good reason for him to choose one over the other and hang up the gun permanently?
I think that's a really good point. And I'll back that. I think that's a good idea. That would be one way to kind of put at the end on Paladin's story and send him off into the sunset, as it were.
Yeah, especially since a couple of seasons ago, I think now, El Paso stage, we noticed Paladin got his ass handed to him.
Oh, yeah.
He is not aging gracefully. He's getting older. He is getting slower. Eventually, if he keeps doing what he's doing, there is a bullet with his name on it waiting for him. Yeah. Unless he changes course. And if protecting and raising Gina was the switch that flipped in his head as to, okay, this is going to be my priority now, that would have been an incredible ending for this show.
That would be great. It would be really nice to see Paladin shift from, I'm the, grizzled, gunman who is now hanging up my all-black attire and putting on my groovy smoking jacket.
Yeah.
And
he can wear that full time. What's not to love about that?
I know, right? Right? And becoming a father figure to this young girl who has one father figure who wants to hang out, live in a van by the river, for want of better terminology.
I thought about that too.
He's a
I was
particular.
watching it.
I mean, he's living in the 1800s equivalent of a van by the river, her, as far as we know, biological father who was hell bent on hatred and anger and ended up killing himself.
Yeah. Now, you would have to change some things.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get rid of that line about what it would mean if Paladin were to swing Gina in his arms.
Yeah.
And for God's sake, you'd have to get him to stop ogling her.
Yeah, seriously. Grody.
Make him more protective of her. Get rid of any hint that, I think you look very makey-outy tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of that crap. This would be an excellent candidate for a series finale. And so that just kept running through my head as I kept rewatching this one. It's like, did someone say, hey, Gene, would you write the finale and make it a finale? And then, for some reason, maybe some production real-world reason, they were like, hey, you know what? Nah. And we got this. All right, Ashley, I feel like we have savaged the savages enough. They were already savage when they came to us. Now they have been savaged further.
Indeed, there was no civilizing done here today.
Yeah, absolutely none. So, what are your thoughts on this one? We're done with Paladin. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
For us, in terms of calendar, this is a year and a half, basically. From the time that I started, and the majority of my time on Gene-ology has been with Paladin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, having grown up in a house where Westerns were on nonstop, and because that's what my dad enjoyed, and he had the remote. So I can't believe it. I'm sorry to see him go, because this was a lot more fun than I thought it would be, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. So,
well, that's the show in general. What are your feelings on this particular episode? Are we actually done savaging it yet, or is there more savaging to come?
Well, let's consider this, Earl. There are two things I kind of want to zero in on. The Savages is the name of the sculpture that August shows Paladin to confirm that he is looking for Spencer. I would contend that the Savages in this episode are not the sculpture. The Savages are August and Spencer. One has chosen beauty, but solitude. A solitude in a way that is, I'm not an introvert, but being married to an introvert and having predominantly introverted friends, I understand solitude is a necessary thing for them to recharge, and even I need that too sometimes. Solitude is not a bad thing. Isolationism is. When you are refusing to deal with the outside world, and you're going to live at your own devices. And then you've got August, who is fueled only by anger and hatred and perceived slights, to the point to where he is cruel to his daughter. He can only think about getting revenge on the man he thinks tried to steal his wife. That's savage. So I would contend that they're both the savages. I think the last line in the episode is what really makes this episode for me.
Talk me through it, because I have really had a difficult time with that. Like, that's our message, Gene? Really?
Yeah.
Because it almost seemed like a really wordy way of saying the first catchphrase that this podcast produced, which was, it's what's.
It's what's. So I think this really is a really Gene Roddenberry idea. And it's kind of the premise of Star Trek, really. This may not be the best of all possible worlds, but if we try, we can make it the best of all possible compromises. You know, he says that Spencer retreated into the wilderness to get away from the world's ugliness. I can certainly understand why. You know, not to put too much of a timestamp on this, but our current socio-political moment is pretty dang ugly. And I have felt the desire to, like, you know what? Throw my hands in the air. I don't know what else to do. But I had a conversation a few years ago with someone who she had just, she basically said, you know what, I'm done with people. Like, I can't. But in more of the line of Werner August than Spencer. And I was accused in this conversation of being unrealistic and too optimistic. And I said, you know what? Maybe I am, but I have to try. Even if I can only do a little, or if what I feel can do to try to make the world better and to make sure that everybody is treated equitably and fairly, I can't not do that. Like, I can't give up, because I think the world, if everybody tried, even if half of us were successful, well, gosh, that's sure a lot better than what we got going right now.
Yeah. So the defeatist, the pessimistic attitude, I can't with that. And so I think, to me, that line is kind of the idea of, yeah, the world is ugly and it's not the best place that it could be, but what if we tried to make it a little bit better? And he's saying this to an artist who is creating beauty. I would love to know who the sculptor is for these pieces that were used in the show, because they're gorgeous. I can't even fathom how you even begin to do that sort of thing, carving or chipping or molding. I have a buddy that she has, in her 40s, decided that she really loves making pottery, and I've watched her make pottery over the past few years and watched her skills grow, and you're never too old to try something new. And this is a thing that she never even thought about earlier in life, and she has a real aptitude for it and is doing incredible work. So, hey, he's saying this to an artist.
What if you tried to make the world a little bit more beautiful?
Okay. You've got me talked into it. I was having real trouble with that as kind of the thesis of the episode.
Yeah.
And also, by default, Gene's last word on Paladin.
Yeah.
Initially, I was kind of like, we're leaving it with that, but okay, you've sold me on the merits of it.
I think this idea, like Star Trek, is basically the thought behind Star Trek is, what if we did work and come together and solve these problems of hunger and poverty, and we stopped warring? What if we start taking steps towards this now?
Yeah, what if one of us says, I'm not going to kill today?
Yeah.
Which seems a lot closer to, in hindsight, seems a lot closer to being a have gun will travel statement than a Star Trek statement.
Mm.
And yet it apparently, unfortunately, is an evergreen.
Yeah. But tell me your thoughts, Earl, because that was where it landed with me. And maybe it's because I had that conversation a few years ago, and I still feel that way, even when I do want to do what Spencer does and retreat.
I was having some real difficulty with this one just because you've got to do more work to peel through the stylistic layers.
Okay.
To get at the heart of this one.
Sure.
I think I said this to you offline before we recorded the podcast, that it almost felt like Gene was a regular watcher of the Twilight Zone, but then promised himself, okay, that means I can't ever do a Twilight Zone thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he accidentally Twilight Zoned all over an episode of Have Gun Will Travel.
Yeah. How about
because it's really surreal starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, like many of Gene's best scripts for this show, very little shooting and a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Again, episode in Laredo comes to mind.
Yeah.
Although I feel like episode in Laredo is a bit more direct and perhaps more successful.
Sure.
In that regard. If anything, it feels like perhaps we are reaching a point here with the Savages where Gene's writing may be too sophisticated for this show. Because it feels like not everything fit into this half-hour bag that every Have Gun Will Travel script had to fit into. It feels like there's more going on here than this show can contain, and maybe this is the perfect off-ramp. Assuming that if Have Gun Will Travel had returned for a 7th season, kind of stepping into an alternate timeline there, would Gene have had anything else to say on this show? Because this feels like he is, taking in mind what you said, it could be that he is reiterating things he's already said. And so maybe I'm not giving this one the credit that it is due. So, yeah, you blew away my notes for the wrap here, because I think you're right on this. Now that I hear you explain it that way, I was wondering a bit, what are we doing here, Gene? This is the last one. And here's the thing. I try not to get into the trap that it's really easy to fall into with either older or modern TV, where people are like, oh, you're only getting so many episodes and you're doing this?
Mm-hmm.
That feels like it's oozing entitlement.
Sure.
That kind of statement.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know what story they're trying to tell until they have told it.
Right.
But I found myself thinking the same thing here. Was it necessarily known? Well, yeah, it was known that we were coming down the home stretch.
Sure.
Richard Boone didn't want to do anymore, and I think that pretty much,
yeah,
you start chiseling the gravestone of the show at that point. Sure.
Well, and I have to wonder, too, was Gene aware this was the last episode that he was going to write for the series?
Yeah.
And is this him giving his own personal send-off for Paladin? whether it runs as the last episode or not.
Yeah, it's as close to a finale as it feels like we got.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it feels like just like we are, Gene is saying goodbye to Paladin, and he's giving him something to say that has perhaps been said in different forms before.
Mm-hmm.
But this time there's kind of an implied, hey, saying it louder for you in the back.
Yep.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, you totally swung me around 180 on this one, and I'm actually comfortable with where it lands.
Yeah, and I think it probably didn't hurt that I had already kind of done some of the emotional homework on this episode, having had that conversation.
Right.
And that conversation I had isn't with somebody that I keep in touch with anymore, for a few reasons. But to my knowledge, and best I can understand, still kind of persisting in that isolationist mentality. I can't fix anything, so I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not even going to try. I'm going to take care of me, and that's it. And
I can understand the temptation of thinking that way.
I certainly can too.
But it's still tragic.
But pity is what I feel for anyone who feels that way. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's not going to solve any problems. It's not even going to make an attempt at solving any problems. It's just defeatist. And, say what you will about Gene Roddenberry. I don't think he was defeatist. And I can't be either.
Gene-ology is meant to be entertaining and informative, but it's also just the beginning of an ongoing conversation about the works of Gene Roddenberry. Drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com and join us on Facebook at missionlogpod. And please remember, your comments could be used on future installments of Gene-ology. If you have any material that might be of interest to us that isn't already in the Roddenberry archive, drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com, and Mission Log Gene-ology is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment.
On the next Gene-ology, Defiance County.
Special thanks to consulting producers Matt Esposito, Tom Kozak, Mike Richards, Mike Schabel, and Paul Shadwell.
We'll be back next week with more of your favorite programs. This concludes our broadcast day.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.